Welcome to the podcast, everybody. First off, the GOAT has returned. I'm not talking about
Jordan?
John Jones, dude.
John Jones.
Russell Brand.
Russell Brand. Okay.
No, so John Jones fought. I don't care. Russell Brand came back to do the podcast tour.
Yeah.
And he is the Avatar. He is. I'm just redoing. We have this video that talks about the 5 charisma types. And usually when we bucket people, they fall into 1 or 2 of those types. So you've got self-assured, funny, energetic, empathetic, and authentic. And we've got examples for all these different ones. We've got an old video. There will be a new one within the next couple of weeks on those with examples, which I'm pretty looking forward to. And making that and then seeing Russell Brand go on both Bill Maher and Joe Rogan was crazy because he is, more than anyone I've ever broken down, spontaneous, meaning when I watch most people, like say I'm watching a Jamie Foxx, I can guess what he's going to do next. He's going to do a funny voice, jump into a story, do the Jamie Foxx thing that is extremely likable and cool, but I can predict it. When I'm watching Russell, I can't tell if he's going to go into a spiritual diatribe, if he's going to do that and then crack a joke, if he's going to listen intently for like 7.5 minutes without interrupting at all, even though Joe just interrupted him. And he truly has, he's mastered all 5 nations.
He is Avatar.
He's the Avatar. And it's interesting to watch him because there's a degree of our videos that is a bit algorithmic. It's like, when you're in this situation, you can do this. And that actually describes how a lot of people behave. Someone who is, I love him and is very algorithmic is Tony Robbins. There's like a click whir thing. Like you say finances, he tells the finance story. You say jump, he says, to cold plunge. Whatever it is, you can kind of, he has a way of being in his interviews and his seminars that is very stimulus response. And his interventions have a bit more flow to him, but that is, a huge amount of what I've seen in breaking him down. Russell is almost always operating in uncharted territory, which is really interesting. He regularly whips out vocabulary that I haven't seen before. He'll go anecdotes that I haven't seen before. Joe interrupts him, and I kept waiting him for he talks for 5 minutes, and I kept waiting for him to take it back to his original point. And when he did eventually come in, it was to respond to the thing that Joe had just said, but it was with the formulation of then he was able to speak for 5 minutes just off like the very last few sentences of what Joe said. And
so what's the charisma learning? Like, what are you going to do? This guy's just so Avatar. Like, you can't, you're just a waterbender. What are you supposed to do with the Avatar guy?
Yeah, I think everybody can raise their charisma ceiling, but not everybody can be the GOAT. And you can certainly train verbal flexibility. You can train empathy. You can work on listening. He is genuinely gifted, though. I mean, he showed up fresh out of being a heroin user and was an MTV VJ effortlessly. He has a gift, and it has only developed as he's, I think, continued in his career and gotten away from just being the silly, funny, flirtatious guy, which he, by the way, was incredible at, all the way up to like, he steamrolls a guy on Bill Maher, and he puts his hand on him, and he just dominates the situation. Then I also watched him just step back and listen for tremendous amounts of time. So super impressive. I don't know if it makes sense to do yet another Russell Brand video, though I will say, in trying to like find new people to do content on, it would be easier to make a brand new Russell Brand video with absolutely totally non-content we've never used before than it would be to do some people that we may never have touched on the channel before. Like that's how I know I'm just absolutely on his charisma right now.
Right, all over his charisma.
Yeah. You also mentioned that kids are using the words Riz.
Yeah. Kids out there are using the word Riz. I didn't look this up prior, so you're putting me on the spot. So.
That's true.
But we could look it up. Yeah, so he's the Riz god is what you're saying.
Allegedly, Riz is derived from charisma.
Yes.
So we're influencing the youth as well. Clearly, that's from our channel. Cool. So
there's a lot on his channel that you just haven't, I don't know if you've kept up with it, but he's just charisma on camera as well. Like how he engages with you, the viewer.
Yes.
What do you think?
Yes.
Let me know in the comments.
Yes.
Write a little blurb. It's like, I will, Russell. I will. Thank you. You're talking to me.
There's a ton you can learn from him in a lot of different aspects. Yeah. Would love to have him on. there's something else that he mentioned on Joe Rogan, which was the femininity of modern spirituality. I thought was interesting. That modern spirituality, not in its entirety, but can have this is his perspective that I haven't really digested, but I think in traditional understanding of feminine and masculine, you've got the feminine, which is mater, maternal, earth, and you've got masculinity, which is pater, paternal, fathered, pattern. And you've got the idea that femininity is based in the groundedness of what is, and masculinity is the spirituality of the sky, of the pattern of not of the material. And he was pointing to that you've got this spirituality that can, not that any of these things are in and of themselves bad, but can get out of balance in, do you have your crystals? Do you have the right consumption products? Do you have your aloe leggings? Do you have the right Instagram shot of your spiritual self? And not only that one of the things that you see in other spiritual traditions that is, I think appropriately, we're trying to find the happy medium. I don't know if happy medium is correct, but we're trying to find a uniquely modern way of doing it, which is, if you look at spirituality, the past, discipline is a tremendous part of it. The discipline to sit in a painful position, which is traditionally associated with the masculine, which is like, this isn't fun. And I'm not attending to my feelings right now. Obviously, that can get thrown out of whack too, and it can be an exercise in suffering. But I thought that was interesting. And then Russell sort of mentioned David Goggins, who I would say today is the epitome of masculine discipline. Your feelings don't matter. You are capable of more than you feel like you are. Don't attend to that. And what I think is interesting is that when I look at some of the people that listen to David Goggins, I find that he's exactly what they need. You know what I mean? When it's like, you're the couch potato with no discipline. And then I think David Goggins himself would benefit from a bit more femininity, from a bit more, how do I feel about this? And it is one of the things that occurred to me that I'm still noodling on is that, yeah, it's not that David Goggins is wrong or right, but there is this idea of everything in moderation. And sometimes you can fall into a guru or a way of being or a heuristic for how one ought to live their life, which is either what do you feel or push through the pain, and you can stay in that modality for longer than serves your growth. And so, yeah, when I without knowing his life, when I do look at David Goggins, it's like, you have done all of the pull-ups. You have pushed yourself to the limit. Like, I think there's a whole field of growth for you in attending to your inner state and seeing if you can sit and take care of your feelings in a way. Like, that would probably be even more of a challenge and even more growth inducing to him than the next difficult physical thing that he did, which isn't to say that he should stop a workout routine or anything like that.
Does David Goggins have a family?
Yeah, I think he does. I mean, I imagine. I think he's got...
I wasn't sure if he was a single man. I know he's an ultra marathon runner, an ex-military discipline guy, but just wasn't sure.
Not sure. Not sure. Don't know all about his bio.
There was a question on the Patreon podcast that wanted us to go deeper into the conversation we had last time.
I know the question that you're referring to. It was broadly asking to break down, how do we know that the people saved, even though there may be millions of them, from the suffering of Ebola, might not just run into the next difficult thing in life, and therefore their quality of life is, they are living but not tremendously improved, versus, the quality of having a good father. Yes, they were rich, but having a good father it was not that this person believed that, but they were playing with the sliders of how do you do this. And I think as I read the question, what I wanted to point back to was the point of the criticism of effective altruism is not simply that people aren't doing the utilitarian math correctly. It's that the utilitarian math is insufficient. Like, the idea that you would take a 20, 30, 40, 50-year span and draw the lines there and say how many people lived or how happy were they over the course of one lifetime, and be able to understand the quality of an intervention or the quality of a decision is not enough, because the things that are hard to measure, one of them is quality of life. Another one, I think, is the subtle ripple effects of the intent and how that percolates through people. Meaning, if I stop donating to charity, we can measure there are fewer wells built and people die. But if I change my attitude and I walk around with a smile and I smile at someone and then they go home and they pet their dog and then that dog like runs up to someone and they make a different decision, those things are nearly impossible to measure, and perhaps shouldn't even be tried, because there is a view of morality that is consequentialist, which says we need to just see the consequences of this. We'll pick a time frame and we'll say, what are the different consequences based on our value systems? There's another view that is, I don't know what it's called offhand, but it's based on the intent of the actions. And I do think increasingly that I have lived too long in the consequentialist, and I think there is tremendous value towards moving more of my morality into the energy of what is being done. Why am I donating to charity? Is it a donation out of fear? Is it a donation out of a sense of cosmic obligation that I have not earned what I have had, and a deep undeservingness of the random lottery of life that placed me here, which I do feel? Or is it, can I find a way to see the world differently than that, to feel, this is challenging, simultaneously deserving of everything I have, and in a loving way wanting to share and give more? And I think that those shortcuts that people take, which is say, you're not deserving, therefore you have to give, is necessary at different points in societal and personal evolution when you're dealing with, little children or adults that behave like little children. Yeah. You need like rules in order to get them to do things. But I think the best world is one where you allow the intent to create the outcome with a deeper sense of trust. Because what you get when you just focus on outcome is people abusing the system, as we talked about with last week, where you can fudge some of the scores to get your company the most thing and you get the most clout, and you wind up perverting this whole charitable drive because it was corrupt from the beginning, because it was based on, I just want to discharge this obligation that I feel, not that I want to share or love or give more. I don't have the answer to this. I asked Destiny this question and we didn't get too deep into it, but I saw that on Reddit there was a 25% billionaire tax that was allegedly proposed by Joe Biden or something like that. And all of the comments were good, Reddit comments, good, it needs to be more, whatever. Yeah. And I think that what hasn't been clarified to me that is implicit in those Reddit comments is, what is the philosophy behind taxation? Is it that the community has the right to take from someone who might be utterly and entirely deserving of the things that they have? Meaning, imagine someone born with 12 brains, 10,000 arms, who truly did, off the work of their own back, create that much value. According to the philosophy that I see implicit in Reddit, they have the best life that is, and there should be just a cap because it doesn't hurt them, and that should be redistributed. Never mind the fact that they might have earned or deserve, or, that the community is essentially banded together as a mob to take what they might not want to give.
Yep.
That is one way to view taxes. Another way to view taxes is, there are no people with 8 brains and 8 arms. No one is able to have the effect of a billionaire. That is only bad accounting that allows billionaires to accrue that much wealth through flaws in our contract system that do not properly return money to the stakeholder of the citizen. So like when Mark Zuckerberg gets whatever $1 billion, he ought to have been paying the individual users of Facebook, because they are the value creators who are being left out, and he has taken from them their value based on an abuse of the contract system in the United States of America, and therefore we're not actually taking from him. We are simply giving back what is deserved to these other people. I think it's important to clarify which of those worldviews you have, and I can see an argument for both. I can see both of them necessitating higher taxes, but there obviously is something about the we're going to band together and take from you because we've determined that the amount of money that you have is too high. But guess what? I will never determine that the amount of money that I have is too high.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I will never, and this, I felt deeply misunderstood in the world thing when people some of the comments about if that is an argument that you are inclined to make, I would encourage you to open up your view of, ought I impose that on myself with regards not just to my nation, but to the world? Like, if you are a beneficiary of we need to tax all billionaires, and that is something you strongly believe, might we not need to tax all 20,000 heirs to redistribute to people in Bangladesh, because you truly will not notice to them in a way that is meaningful? Now, let me be clear. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Mark Zuckerberg will notice if you take away their $billion of dollars. You might not think they notice, but they absolutely do, and that is evident in the way that they behave. You know, they want to buy larger companies and do bigger things, or even just count their money in their bank. But the idea they won't even notice it is a very self-centered view that takes your experience of money and what is enough and what you imagine would be enough and transposes it to them, to someone who is to the right of you on the income. But you never look, not never, if you are this hypothetical person, you might not look left and go to someone in Bangladesh who is living on $1 a day. The difference between someone with $6,000 in their bank and $60,000 in their bank might be meaningless to them. Like, what's the difference? Like, you're eating, you have a roof over your head, you know that you're not going hungry. You ought to give all the way down to when you only have $1,000 in your bank or something like that. So I do think it's important to clarify the philosophy, if you're going to argue for this, of taxation.
Some of the rich people in America feel like kings, and isn't that where taxes started, which was you're paying, like your tributaries were paying you a tax to live on the land that was deemed all king's land or like all queen's land? And I don't know the history of taxes, but like,
you're right.
But that's what it feels like. Is like, that guy has all the money. He's our king. We should just take it back. He's not my king. And it's like, but that's not how we work anymore. Like, and in some cases, I guess there's generational wealth where it feels like this person has just been sitting at top of an empire. But yeah, that mentality seems way more feasible if I'm like a regular dude in England and my king just keeps taking my money every year. And I'm like, boys, let's kill this guy. Let's take everything back. But I'm not smart enough with tax code. And then the other thing is, like, if you just draw a marker, it's like, let's start taxing billionaires. They'll just invest all their funds and use tax loopholes in real estate and our research and development to not be a billionaire on paper.
Well, that is not an argument against the attempt, but you're right.
Yeah,
like there would be
entire system.
Yes, if you try to plug one hole.
Yes, and
you create this is the broader thing, is you need rules and regulations and systems in society. I'm not denying that. But as long as people's hearts and intents do not align with those rules, you will constantly be plugging leaky buckets. And I think that is, to be clear, necessary, right? Yeah. Like, that is the function of government is not to be a perfect utopian thing where everybody's hearts are in the right. It's to plug as many holes as you can so that people can have a decent enough life.
Yeah. I mean, Donald Trump is a tax savant. It's like I told you 3 weeks ago, I think it's bullshit, but I love the story. It's just like he built a golf course and then used a section of it as a cemetery for his close loved ones, which is sad, but it's a write-off and it costs, and they don't have to pay any greens fees or gardening costs, and they get write-offs from the government for having a cemetery.
And
I don't know what his intent was when he did it. Maybe he just wanted his loved ones close to him when he put them on the golf course, but you're right.
Not that I would want this to happen, but it's like, if you were going to implement a 25% billionaire tax, I almost would prefer that you said, look, either you take the 25% billionaire tax, and maybe this wouldn't work because the intent isn't there, or you sign up for a round of, over the course of a year and a half or 2 years, 5 MDMA treatments. You either take the hit or you do this, and then you don't have to give anything. And through the process of and what I've learned about this is that the medicine is not enough. Like, you have to come to it
with intent,
which is, how do you manufacture intent, or how does intent change? I don't know. I don't know
either.
Yeah, that has been a conundrum to see some people receptive and open and some people not. Is interesting. I think one of the things that can shift intent is tremendous suffering. I think tremendous love can shift intent. I think, but those
suffering
like
seems like the best one that I've seen. It's just like grief, loss, just moves you way better than like you're stable and have all the things you need, and you have a love and support system. Yeah.
Cool. The other thing, which is barely formulated in my mind, and I'm going to try. So, as my understanding of the world evolves, this might sound obvious, but it seems like the core of so many relationships in life is discerning whose responsibility or whose shit is what in a relationship. I will try to give an example to elaborate.
I'm lost, bro.
Okay.
Holy moly.
If we get into an argument, or we begin to get in an argument, and I first curtly say to you, get out of here. And you go, don't fucking tell me that. I say, don't curse at me. There's this, what is occurring at some level is we are debating who breached the rules of our relationship
prior.
First. Yes.
The prior rules, which was amicable speaking to each other with respect.
Yes. Who did this first? And of course, there's not a singular thing. Like, you might have misinterpreted me, but you might have misinterpreted my curtness based on the fact that you just lost a game of League of Legends, which made you in a testier mood, and then been, and so much of relationships, and then if they get mended, both people can apologize. But I think it's important to not have heuristics in this where you just go, we both apologize all the time. I do think it is, as I get older, it's important to, we can't just cut the baby in half King Solomon style. Like, we do, if we want to solve problems in the future, have to
find who's at fault.
Not who's at fault, but whose responsibility it is to adjust
their behavior,
their energy and behavior and way of being. And I have found that this is a very subtle game that is very difficult to play, but one of the things I'm realizing is that I have a lot of heuristics that have screwed me up in the past, and I will read some of them to see if this lands with you.
Well, for the first one, I don't even know what heuristic means. So
heuristic is a rule of thumb that guides you as to whose responsibility this thing might be.
Yeah,
so
you have a heuristic right off the bat. That's we should figure out whose is this. You know what I mean? Other people just say sorry, and that's not enough for you. They just they say sorry, and they walk away, and they act like it don't happen.
And it's okay, that's one of them that's on there. If you allow that, if you allow someone to say sorry and walk away, the problem persists. You know what I mean? Like, and that's one of the things that if all that it is required in a relationship is the verbal sorry, the underlying cause will perpetuate itself over and over and over again. Because what is required is not someone to speak the word sorry, but someone to reflect on their behavior, see the cause of it, see that that's not the way that they'd like to behave, and take steps to amend that. And in doing so, the communication of the other person is, I am sorry that I did that, and I want to be different, and I am working on being different, and it is my deep intention to not continue this pattern.
Yeah, I have some whataboutisms, but I'm gonna
okay.
I have friends that just fight. They get drunk, they get drunk, they have really angry, then they make love at the end of the night, and then they just repeat it every weekend, and I think they'll do it to the end of time. And so that doesn't totally fit into we found out who started this. It's just the pattern they have, and they're going to have a functioning marriage for the rest of their life. But yeah, go ahead.
That to be clear, that doesn't
it doesn't mutually exclusive?
No, not at all mutually exclusive. Okay. In fact, that's the problem will just keep going. You will keep fighting.
Yeah, but then they die.
And then they die. That's fair. At the end,
you
will just die.
And you've gotten to the bottom, and they died, and they didn't get to the bottom.
So my goal is not to get to the bottom, but to create more harmony in my life and more fewer time spent cleaning up stuff and more time spent creatively in flow building new things. Especially in regards to relationships. So some of the heuristics that I have carried that are wrong, and in the same way that you can abuse the environmental scores in effective altruism, if you know the game and you can just tweak it, these can be abused. So if someone is angry or yelling, they've crossed the line. If someone is raising their voice, they're the one who did it. Versus someone could be very calm and well, they could be poking, or they could be not listening, or they could be doing things such that anger would actually be an appropriate, hey, you say you want to be in a relationship with me, you say that you are listening, you do not behave as if you are listening to me. And so that, you raise your voice or you get angry.
These are all personal heuristics?
Yeah, these are ones that I notice come up in my life, which is, whoever yells first is often like, whoa, what's going on with you?
Yeah.
And I don't think that's fair. I don't think any of these are 100%.
Charlie yells every fight.
I always yell, and I'm not wrong. No, I don't every fight.
I know.
And because I know that is a thing that if I do, and I'm realizing that it actually, in some of my more recent relationships, has been the thing that is needed. Not in a, I hate you, I'm going to scream at you way, but like, you need to know that I am experiencing anger right now. It is important for our relationship for you to witness this, as opposed for, okay, keep that one, because if you tip your hand right there, now you've got to go figure out why you're so angry, and it can't be that this person did something. Yeah. And it's been important for me to, in a adult way, get angry inside of a safe relationship, this isn't the end of the relationship, but I am angry and pissed right now.
Yeah.
And here's why I think, and that has been helpful to me. So, I can't even read some of these writings because of the autocomplete, but if someone says they are hurt, they have been harmed by you. Like one of the big full stops in a lot of my understandings, and this isn't other people, but I'm saying if somebody goes, ooh, you hurt me, that's a huge pause, and that needs to be checked out, and that can be abused, which is anytime we get into sensitive territory, you're hurting me, ouch, ouch, you're hurting me, can become don't push me. Similarly, if
that's emotionally speaking, though.
Yes. Oh, yeah. Not
you're not punching her in the face. I wasn't sure. Ouch, ouch, you're hurting me. It's not something you say
ouch, ouch,
in a talk.
Yes. If someone is really struggling, therefore they shouldn't be pushed. You know what I mean? And these are ones that came up in a recent interaction with my girlfriend, which is in getting upset with her and pushing her past even when she indicated struggle actually was, I think, a way that really moved things for us. And I was able to, in an interaction where you're being mean to me, in actually going no, I am angry about this, and no, stop retreating from this conversation. It worked better than it had in the past. And I think we both came to a thing, which is most people have not experienced a loving, safe, masculine, I need more from you that does not communicate you are not enough.
Like a supportive, powerful anger.
A supportive step up.
Little David Goggins.
Yeah. Well, I think in that there can be, I don't know if it's intended from him, but you can easily communicate you're not enough. In that, which is, there's another thing that is to call someone out and say you can do and be more without not being enough is a complex communication to deliver to someone. So I think that needs to be, that was something that happened. And this is one that I've abused, which is if you win the argument, that means that you were right. And I've been very good at winning arguments for my whole life. And
wait, say this again. If you can win the argument, you are right.
If the other person concedes, therefore you must have been right all along. So if I can,
what does conceding look like?
Yeah, I argue. She says this, I say this. He says this, I say this, and they get stumped at the end. If you can out verbal jujitsu someone, then you are right. And I think that I, literally studied philosophy so that I could do that. So yeah, there's a number of these that I don't have to go into, but
one of mine that I feel, which is funny that you take, if I start arguing, I've lost, and get angry. Mm-hmm. If I need to get angry in order for you to see or hear me, I'm out. Is the opposite one. I don't use anger as a tool. I'm if I need to do that, I'm outro. So I have when I've had breakups, just been very understand. Everything's great. No, we'll talk soon. And I'm seething inside, but I haven't used the anger as a tool to
to engage in the relationship.
Engage in the relationship. I was just calmly, I'm stepping away.
Yeah.
Like, I don't see anger getting me anything I want in this. So I'm out. I'm out.
And that, I think, interestingly enough, is the complexity of this, is what I would say, is that would be your responsibility that you're not picking up, which is there were probably plenty of times where the needed interaction from you was anger. The needed response from your partner was space for you to be angry without saying, you're killing me, you know?
Yeah.
And the relationship.
Ouch, ouch, you're hurting me.
Ouch, this is too much. You know, like for you to be upset with someone crossing a boundary or whatever, or not listening to you, and to have that occur in a way that they knew that you loved them, they were safe physically, of course, and that the relationship was not being threatened by this.
Yeah, I sort of missed my opportunity for powerful anger along the way.
Yeah, for
really
medium bursts of powerful, this is not acceptable and I am angry about this, might have prevented the...
I even think, well, to be fair, it's like I probably tested them out slightly and was like...
And they didn't hold
They didn't hold.
Yeah.
I was like, these don't work.
Yes.
And so at the very end of the relationships, I'm just like... but yeah, good point out.
I think that's a common one. And by the way, both exist. People that will tolerate intense amounts of screaming and anger without leaving the relationship
Oh,
exists.
dude, that's like a giant...
There's a huge contingent of people like that. But there's also a contingent of people who will not tolerate any anger, and therefore the relationship will end 2 years later for some other reason, because the intensity of this boundary has been crossed, or you have not seen me, listened to me, reacted to my needs in a way that is deeply important, is not being expressed and can only be expressed in hurt or tears, which is not always appropriate for it. And doesn't, when you have, I've noticed, a safe range of expression of all the emotions, stuff tends to move faster. And you tend to get more growth more quickly, and ultimately more harmony inside of a relationship that is not surface level harmony of like, we never fight, like good ideologues, but we actually both feel totally safe, open, and comfortable. Not we're safe. Yeah. We're safe as long as we stay within this band.
Where do you draw the line on like staying in the relationship in general? So,
I mean, I've never dumped anybody, so
there's your heuristic.
No,
yeah, you're like, we'll figure this. Basically, there's also a heuristic that all this gets figured out with emotions and tools that I'm learning.
Yes. I have a lot.
I'm way more specifically. I just bounce.
Yeah, I'm not.
I'm
and so we have different things
modes
to work on
Yeah.
there, which is I need to maintain a capacity to say, this isn't right for me, I'm out. And you need to maintain a capacity to say, this isn't right for me, let's talk.
Yes, exactly.
And I have infinite amounts of, this isn't right for me, let's talk, which can, you could just get stuck there forever.
Yeah. Personally, I get destroyed in talks. I'm like,
keep losing deals.
I keep losing deals. Next thing I know, I've got a checklist, a laundry list of things I need to do. I'm like, how did I get into this? What?
Yeah. That's not good. And I guess the thing that I am trying to say with all of these words is that the trickiness of this game is that one is not right and one is not wrong. I don't think that I can look and say, we need less anger, or we need less crying, or we need more talking, or we need, like, generally those things can be right. But I actually think I need less conversations about my relationships in my relationships.
That's sort of what I was saying.
I need more walking. I need more, like, so anything that one could say does not apply. Because these are such subtle things, and everything, there's an appropriateness to everything within bounds, excluding murder and all that stuff.
And ouch, you're hurting me. Hits.
Yeah. That those are all appropriate at various times inside and in the exit of a relationship is complex and tough to discern. So we talked about a couple things. We did this a bit more. We already shot the Patreon, but I'll go briefly into it. Corridor Digital did a thing where they shot their crew of guys on a green screen dressed up, and then they ran it through AI. I won't take you through it. They talked about the process, which is fascinating. I'll do it a little bit. Basically, they blurred the images.
Time out. You've gone too far. They made a YouTube video that's an anime-style version of them doing live action rock, paper, scissors.
Sure.
Okay? So they filmed themselves, and they made it into an anime. Now go ahead.
It's awesome. So imagine that you could whip out your phone, point it at Henry, and he's moving around, except he's got cell-shaded graphics.
Yes.
Now, Now, imagine that you could do that and that you could just pop a background in behind him. So now you can take Henry, dress him up in an overcoat or whatever, put some fake guns in his hand, and he can be Neo from the Matrix. And you can go like that, and it can look really cool very quickly.
Drawn style, using AI like Midjourney. And
it's not Midjourney. It's Dream Booth is what they use.
Dream Booth.
Anyways, these things are still not very user-friendly interfaces. They're complex. It reminds me of what I had to do when I was trying to play pirated games as a kid. You got to like drag the file over here and then do this and like make sure you have the right version. And it's constantly evolving and changing. But fascinating. All art jobs, I think a lot of the lower level art jobs are on their way out. Legislation, I don't think is going to protect this. And the few remaining art jobs will be increasingly at the level of creative director, which is choosing the art style, high-level decisions, receiving a tremendous amount of options. Like, which of these shots do you like best? That one. And they're going to be the
human tastemakers. I think you mentioned this in a video a long time ago about the AI revolution.
Yes, and you're going to be able to write scripts from ChatGPT-3. Give me a script about an orphan boy who lives on a... it's going to be fascinating. I think there's going to be a deluge of content that is of a production quality within the next couple of years that was just unachievable by almost anybody. In the same way that like nobody could have a camera and it was just Johnny Carson that it was able to do a talk show, and then YouTube was like everybody can have a podcast. You're going to see that with anime. You're going to see that with Disney cartoons and 3D drawings. And I think that's a really like Johnny Carson to the Joe Rogan podcast era where there's a trillion podcasts. I think you're going to see that in anime. Some, of course, surge to the top. And I don't just mean anime. I mean any sort of multimedia drawing, three-dimensional thing. It's going to be awesome. I'm super excited. It's a really, really exciting thing in the next couple of years, what is unfolding.
Technically speaking of that video, what I found interesting is they were able to determine the style, the aesthetic of the video using photos they took and inputting them into the application.
They didn't take the photos, and this was the criticism, I'm glad you said this, of people in the comments, was they took a pre-existing show, uploaded like 50 of those images for the style, and people were like, you're ripping this off. Now, here's the thing. You want to get around that particular criticism, you can pay an artist, be like, give me something in your style. I need 50 to 100 images.
Oh, this is like why the copyright stuff that is going on with AI is what you're saying. People criticize them for stealing.
Yes. And to be fair, like that I would say is you should not be able to do. You should not be able to take, I think it was like Demon Slayer or something. Now they were doing it for a concept, for more than an homage, more than to sell new content or monetize it or anything like that, even though they did get ads, which I think is in this case okay. That said, you could imagine paying an artist or a few artists to make 50 to 100 things, uploading that art style, and then removing the entire repetitive section of creation, which is, okay, so we've got our guy. Now we need to draw him running. Now we need to draw him jumping. Now we need to draw him look. It's just, it can guess that for you based on, and it is still, I acknowledge, pulling from a whole database of other art stuff. But even if you wanted, even if you said that shouldn't be legal, those people are having their work used, some company will come around, compile, and just pay a bunch of artists. They'll get 10,000 or 100,000 photos that are creatively licensed or whatever to be the data set that they train on, and they'll be all commercially linked to that, and this thing will still happen. Even like there is a way for it to check every box of person that is complaining about it and still happen. So I don't think that's going to be the route that it did, but it's kind of like when people argue against abortion because what if someone is raped? When it's like, yeah, but what if that wasn't the case? Like, well, I still don't care. I still don't want abortion. It's the same thing with this, is the criticisms that are levied are surmountable, but the problem is that people, I think, essentially don't have or don't like is that a lot of jobs are going to go away. And a lot of things that people have worked a really long time on and are incredibly talented at will be devalued in the future, except to say that I think handmade art will still have a place, but it's going to be more a novelty and not your like bread and butter thing that people lean on for the current stuff. So
do you think we're peaking or the wave is going to continue going up for AI? Because we talked last night and you and I had said something in relation to the crypto stuff, being like ginormous a year and a half ago and it being game changing and then now nobody's talking about it. Do you think that's going to have a similar downfall of AI being so damn popular? Like everyone's talking about AI and using ChatGPT to write their own scripts. And I'm constantly seeing, you know, creators saying I use ChatGPT to make me $500,000 this month. Obviously that stuff will go down, but do you think the industry as a whole will become less, be like a shiny object?
I don't know. I don't know anything about the technology. I do know that the first iteration of AI is infinitely more usable than any crypto thing or protocol than I've ever seen. I use ChatGPT 3. Like we literally, hey, can you send, you threw in some of the long Patreon questions that we had.
Yeah, it summarized so beautifully.
This is useful, and without too much shade, crypto isn't. You know, it will be, can be. There's interesting projects, but it's promise at this point.
Yeah. Like it's going to be sick. You'll see. And then ChatGPT's like, here's something free. Try it out.
Yes.
You're
yes.
Like, what?
No gas fees.
Yeah.
So I don't think that while there might be a huge crest of interest, I actually think that, okay, Adobe dropped their podcast AI, which takes me recording on my phone outside with wind and makes it podcast quality. That's incredible. Usable. Free. I've seen so many of Midjourney. I use when I'm trying to just get concepts or trying to communicate what I want to an artist, something with this perspective, I might say, and I can quick do it in Midjourney and then send to them. I'll say, yeah, this, but
on a text prompt.
XYZ.
You write them a text prompt.
I write a Midjourney text prompt that produces 4 different photos. I would pick the one that I like. I send it to the artist, and I say, it's not this, but this is the angle that I want and the art style that I like, and I like that he has X, Y, or Z.
Wow.
And the artist can go, got it, I'm going to do this thing. And I think in the future, what you'll have is a much smaller role, like I don't even know that I'll need the artist for that. I'm having the artist do the lion's share of the work. I'm getting just broad concepts, which is like, here's a guy in a big coat in a warlock tower, you know?
Yeah.
But I want him to be a tiefling, and I want him to look like this, and I want him to X, Y, Z. So that the stuff that I'll need to go to an artist for, I think will be much, much smaller in the future. But I will need, probably I could just get a creative director who's better than me to make all of those decisions.
That's the one thing I noticed in the Corridor Crew, just to wrap it up. They had dude just got served all their videos, been watching all of them. They had one where they did battles and who could do better text prompts to produce a funnier image. And then they voted on who they liked better. And one guy won, and he won all of them because he knew how to get the visual to match with the words. And it's very particular. Your negative keywords that you use, like, always put in blurry for negative keywords. Like your positive keywords, like how you describe something. So yeah, tastemakers, people who can write to the AI what it can produce in a picture form is going to be a skill for a little while.
Yes. So if you are in that field, I highly recommend, and I'm now, as I bring on artists, I'm looking for people that show hobbied interest in AI, because if you don't have that interest, you're not going to stay on the cutting edge of it, and you're not going to be able to integrate it into your workflow when appropriate, even if it's just for ideation.
It's like liking computers in the early 90s.
Yeah.
You're like, I like computers.
It's important if you're an artist. It's really, really important. So let's talk, something came up this week was... you run my LinkedIn at this point. And by run, I mean you sent a handful of messages to people trying to get them on the podcast.
Yeah.
And you received a message from someone saying, hey, you're a testimonial on this thing to me. Do you recommend I work with this group of people who do TikTok stuff? For context, when TikTok first came out, we worked with a little agency to get our stuff up. First, it was going well. You know, it was the age of TikTok where you could kind of just post and like you would get followers, especially with the following like Charisma on Command. And so we got like 30,000 followers in the first month, and we were pleased. They asked for a testimonial. I said, yeah, this is great. We got 30,000. I'm really excited for what comes next. What came next was we got some growth, but it was slower because TikTok got harder. We were never able to find a monetization strategy that worked. It was always just losing money, and we did for many months. And then Split, not thinking awfully of them, but certainly having that been one of many experiments that I've run in Charisma on Command.
Thinking more like that TikTok just isn't a great platform for monetizing a $600 course, and like you're going to have to put a lot of time and like make it really work and use it pretty every day to like grow on it and really care. And you're like, I don't care about that, and paying an agency fee to just garner a few 100,000 people and some views isn't worth it.
Yes.
Literally isn't.
Yes, it was not worth it for us, and so didn't walk away feeling terribly.
No.
I wasn't like, you can't use me as a testimonial. I was like, yeah.
Learned a little bit about TikTok, honestly.
What I said was fine, and that was it. We run a lot of experiments that fail. Most of our experiments fail.
Yeah.
So the message said, we went to this website that they had our testimonial, and so they had my testimonial at the bottom page, but above it, they had a bunch of lies. They had...
No. You didn't see the homepage.
I saw
the page. In the
page.
first fold, you're not there, but in the second fold, you're there, and you're the number one testimonial case study you can read. And then if you click on that, it's an entire page of
what happened
lies.
with us, and it was full of lies. $12,000 monthly revenue. Never, not a single month. I think lifetime we got maybe 20-ish in that ballpark. I don't
prior
remember.
to them. They
and
didn't have,
by the way, they were not really involved in that. What happened was I said, let's make a quiz. I made a quiz and then attached it to our bio. And so we were able to capture some emails, and we had a pre-existing email sequence that was able to sell them some of our first impressions courses. But like, this was built by me, not by me. I suggested it. I made the course. Ivan and the team helped me implement it. Like, this is what happened. And then you, additionally, ran your YouTube shorts, which you made, to that page, which even inflated those numbers more. All to say, it was full of lies, nowhere near that monthly revenue. And it had, I was losing my mind because I was like, I actually thought I was crazy. There was a screenshot of like $12,352.19 in a payment processor that I've never seen before, which you told me is Shopify.
The Shopify mobile picture, which
I've never seen that, and I'm going, do we have a thing? This is how self-uncertain I am at times. and how, when people flat out lie, I am blown away. This is an issue of mine. I stretching the truth, but flat out lying, I'm going, there must be something wrong.
Wow. Yeah, I was angry about that, but also like, that was an obvious lie when I saw that picture, but also the verbiage in their copy about how they were solving our problems and they were working together. And here's the problem. The pitch and the sale of the solution was annoying.
It was an entire, this page was so false. And then it was punctuated with a video of me that I had recorded that said, we got 30,000 followers. I recommend it, and that seemed to underline and co-sign everything that was said above it.
Yep.
I asked them to take it down. They did take it down. But you and I talked about this, which I figured I'd say on the podcast. So many agencies, the vast majority of them are value thieves. They take money from the generation above them in age as a tax on not understanding the newest technology. The secret is neither do they. They are merely users of it. And you go, that kid must know Facebook. And this is our dad. So we wanted you to do this. You got to go to companies and tell them that you're going to do and this is what happened for a while, is you could go.
Social media marketing is the first one. I'm sure there's other ones of agencies that are the middlemen between the actual profitable business and the new technology they need to be on, which was like,
and some of these, just to cover my bases, do work. There are agencies that you can do, and they'll run your ads, and they create the creative, and they're good. They are few and far between.
Not every coffee shop needs to be on Facebook and Instagram. They probably need to be on Google for their sorry, go ahead.
I've never worked with one of those agencies. I can only speculate as to their existence, and I've worked with several. Our product is a bit harder, but guess what? It works very well on YouTube. It's like we have retargeting ought to be easy. I have never in 10 years of business worked with an agency that ever didn't lose money. Like, that is what they have always done. And I think that there are certain industries.
Well, go back to heuristics. You won't lie. You won't stretch your numbers.
That's true.
And
we cripple
you
them.
would work. I could make you work. I could write a new page that has a new screenshot of the revenue and value I can provide by taking Charisma University in 30 days or less. And then I would run traffic to it, and they'd be like, this offer is incredible. And I could get a positive ROI on whatever $600 product you have, but it would be through lies.
Yes.
This is what they do. They lie.
Always are stunned when I go, no, you can't do that. You can't do that. You can't do that. That's a lie. That's not true.
You handcuff them.
Yes. So, but if you look at it, their business model, if they are constrained to the truth, the business model is either live off of the confusion of the company that we're taking money from, or extract goodwill from the client base by by us being a mouthpiece of lies, where we can take some of that money that is being made off of destroying the brand value of this company.
Yep.
They're value destructive at 90+% of the time. And if you're out there and you think you're not that agency, you don't need to take offense to this. But yeah, that there are just these, and unfortunately, what I know will happen is that they don't stop. They just move on to the next technology or the next customer or the next thing. And it's unfortunate. This is an old thing from every good business guru ever, Alex Hormozi. If instead you just tried to make a product that actually worked and didn't put as much effort into the BS photoshopped image of the sales page that they had for, or of the testimonial page for me, like, I know that that took less time in the short term, but a career made off those decisions, which is now years away from us having worked with them.
Oh, great point.
Is like, yes, you're going to make a sale this month because you made my testimonial page full of lies. Your career will be spent chasing and churning customers because you haven't found out how to contribute.
Yeah. If you actually made Charlie $12,000 in the first month,
still be
he'd be paying you $10,000 per month to make him free money every month.
Yeah. It's like you wouldn't have to do that. And this short-term thing is deeply unfortunate.
There is some agencies, sorry to cut you off, that seem like they're so lucky to just have Coca-Cola's ad spend, because Coca-Cola will just, they don't care. They just want impressions. And like, if you want to take this one.
No, please.
It's just, Gary Vaynerchuk's agency will always exist if they're getting Coca-Cola's ad spend. Coca-Cola wants to be everywhere. If you're going to do the marketing campaigns for Coca-Cola and NBA and giant companies that just have giant budgets, sure, you're like kind of not creating much value, but you're just spending their money they're going to spend anywhere else. Mm-hmm. Like, they're already profitable and they have ginormous budgets, multi-million-dollar budgets.
And there is a difference between brand-driven companies and direct sale-driven companies. If Coca-Cola were to pull all of its ad spend, they would do better this year and then die.
Yeah.
Because they are non-differentiated from Pepsi minus the brand.
Yeah.
And so there does come a point where impressions, which in my business are useless, are the entire game. And the most valuable companies are brands. Yep. So there's a point at which you break through the stratosphere into like, and what's interesting, Alex Hormozi, I think this is what he's done. He said, I'm not going to play I'm going to skip that whole I need to make money off of this business thing because I already made money. I've done that.
Yep.
I'm going to lose a ton of money to build a Alex Hormozi acquisition.com brand.
Yep.
And I don't know when and I don't know where, but that ubiquity will eventually become so much more valuable to me given the way that it interfaces with my other business models, which is that's going to bring me acquisition.com companies that will make me millions and millions, but not today, not tomorrow, over the long haul. And it's I've seen him talk about this. The biggest game in town is the brand game, which is just awareness.
Yep.
But when you try to play that game at the low level, it's a farce. It's a fraud. It's not real. If you have any of these agencies talking to you about impressions that you've made and you're not making already $10+ million in revenue, it doesn't matter. So few thoughts. Honestly, 10 mil might even be low. For the point at which that begins to really matter.
Yep.
And so, yeah, there was just another thing. I hesitate to say this. I have to watch more. But have you heard of Richard Spencer?
I have not.
He was on the No Jumper podcast with Destiny. We actually got lunch with Destiny after he was on the podcast. He mentioned this guy. I hadn't heard of him. He was the guy who got punched in the face during the Punch a Nazi thing. He was like
just a random bystander?
No, he was like the face of the white supremacist alt-right thing. And so the only association I had with him is Nazi. And it was very interesting to listen to a portion of him speak. Maybe I'll say more on it next week.
Okay.
He seems to have reformed some of his views. He was shockingly bright. I did not expect him to be nearly as intelligent as he was. And it was an intriguing first portion of the conversation that I didn't get deeper into, because to have someone's name in my mind have such a doofus understanding of them and then see him coherent, intelligent, and seemingly, he didn't detail exactly how, but like regretting some of his positions was really interesting. And so,
is he a content creator now? They just found this guy with like 5 years later after getting punched in the face, dude.
I think he does content. He was one of those names for me that was just, don't even worry about this. Don't even check into it. This guy's just a lunatic. And I'll probably watch the rest of the conversation.
Gotcha.
To see, because I did think it was interesting. Which isn't to say if you're out there and you hate Richard Spencer that I'm going to fall into a white supremacist trap. That was why I wrote him off. I'm curious how he has developed or evolved. So yeah, that is that. I think that's it.
Good.
Appreciate you guys. Quick updates over on Patreon. You can find everything that we're up to. We're going to answer questions about the business. So if you guys want to see that, please, it keeps us going. Also, D&D On Demand is going to come out with its Season 2, Episode 1 episode on either the 20th or the 27th. I want it to be the 20th, but I'm trying to get more 3D in there, and we've hit some roadblocks. So 20th or 27th, it will come out. Season 1 will be completed eventually, but I want to show you the best of what we have, and that is this Season 2 with all of us in the same room and a great Trump impersonator and my friend Evan there, and it's just a way more fun vibe. We've got way better post-production support. So 20th or 27th of March, keep your eyes out for that. Appreciate all of you. See you soon. Peace.